Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Round 2. Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. We are back. I'm buzzing to be back. It's been way too long out of the game. I'll tell you why we got booted off for a little bit, but not today. It doesn't matter about that. We are here with the amazing Jake Buckley.
Thank you.
How seamless was all that, mate?
Beautiful.
No glitches whatsoever.
No. Take one, like a dream.
Maybe not. We're tricking you. But that's what the beauty is, isn't it, mate? It's all the mistakes and the mishaps on the way.
I feel like we're onto a better one now.
As a musician,
Go on.
can you pinpoint one of the worst gigs or times where you've just been blunder after blunder after blunder and sort of what's going on? You just had to get through it.
Yeah, I can think back to a gig that I did, a covers gig many years ago, where I decided to put one of my original songs in the set, and then it was, I think, probably the only time where I've gone so wrong that I've had to just stop, and then not play it again. You know, and that was way before I'd had any therapy, so that was brutal. You know, that hit me hard.
What was happening?
I don't know. It was quite complex picking pattern, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, probably like it wasn't as big a deal in the room as what it felt in my head. But yeah, it's pretty devastating, to be honest. You know, because of the bravery, like working up to it. In the couple of songs before it, I was like, "Shall I, shan't I?" I was like, "Yeah, go on, let's do this," and then just complete failure.
They're lonely drives home, aren't they?
Yeah, it's quite. Luckily, it is quite rare. It doesn't happen a lot. But yeah, that was bad.
Can you sort of talk about what lesson came from that?
I mean, it was a hell of a long time ago now. I don't know. I don't think I would have learned a valuable lesson from it at that point in my life.
Yeah,
I think I would have just hidden it away for as long as possible. You know, this is when I was like 21, something like that. So yeah, I think I have since then played original songs at covers gigs, and they've gone very well. So,
Mate,
you know, we
why
got
are
there in the
people
end.
so opposed to original songs? What? Just is it mainly drunk people that want to get their head bobbing? They know what words are coming and they're happy with it.
Yeah, I think you're there to provide a service.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting paid for. And it's not something that I do regularly, but every now and again you're playing a gig and you can just tell that the atmosphere in the room, I wrote original songs for covers gigs as well. So I'd write them with like loads more humour in there, or like sort of like I wrote a song called "My Name's Jake and I'm an Alcoholic," which had like at the end of every chorus I used to do a shot and get everyone to cheer and stuff like that. And it was kind of like pub drinking songs.
How many choruses?
There was four choruses.
What shots?
Whatever they had, basically.
Four tequilas.
Yeah, four tequilas.
That sent me over.
Yeah, that was the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would, you know, at the time I would start the song with, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jake and I'm an alcoholic," and impersonate that I was at the beginning of an AA meeting and get everyone to give me a round of applause, and then I'd go into it.
And to the person, because I filmed your podcast, last podcast you did. Have you done many podcasts, or was that one of the first?
This is my second
podcast.
Yeah.
So you did the Educating Idiots.
Yeah.
You should go and check that one out, guys, because it's a really good podcast.
It is.
And you speak heavily on that about alcoholism and the addiction side to it.
Yeah.
Probably more than you anticipated, really, on that episode.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I'm always happy to talk about it.
How did you find it on the whole podcast in general? Did you enjoy being on a podcast?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I've known Luke for years.
Good guy.
Yeah, and I enjoyed we had a little catch up the day before as well, sort of planning what we were going to say and stuff, and that was really fun as well, because he was just in a point in his life where it was just, I don't know, it was just good to catch up. And then Yeah, I did enjoy it, but I definitely ended up talking about drinking or not drinking, as it were.
Not drinking, yeah.
Well,
'cause
yeah,
you're
drinking and not drinking.
You're the
and-
sober rock and roller, aren't you, on all social media?
Yeah, that's my
Gimmick. No,
yeah, that's the gimmick. I'm actually just downing Guinnesses. Like, no, I've kind of tied myself into my brand now, so I better not have a drink, or all that's knackered. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just fascinating hearing that song and that story, and me trying to picture you to the guy that I've met now, because that's really the only version that I've had a proper conversation with and listened to for
Yeah.
a good hour's podcast time.
Yeah.
And now to hear those lights shine through of a song where you're doing shots and you're just getting wrecked.
Yeah.
How often was that? Was it every weekend or was it more than that?
Yeah, that was.
How often do you play that song?
How often do I play that
Every
song?
gig.
I mean, I would. It did get to a point where, and this was great at the time, but where I would be getting requests for My Name's Jake and I'm an Alcoholic, and there was another one called Who Drank All My Wine, at my covers gigs,
Right.
and that I wouldn't be allowed off stage until this happened, so I'd save them to the end, and yeah.
That's a really interesting part of the conversation, because you hear this in a lot of artists, particularly comedians, and it happened to myself actually.
Yeah.
When you get known for one of your songs or one of your pieces, you build a bit of an identity and an ego around that, don't you? And you feel like you have to stay attached to it. Was it quite hard to break free from this whole persona, these songs that you created?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Because these songs, my songwriting hero, my number one is a chap called Loudon Wainwright the Third, and he'd always written, autobiographically with his lyrics, and it was always this kind of like walking the line between tragedy and humor. And I wrote as sad a songs as I did funny songs, so I really didn't mind. Which one people were enjoying, but to find a situation or a place where I could, and captivate an audience with my songs, I would just take it, So, like, I mean, if we're asking after I stopped drinking, have I played it since? Then no,
Yeah.
So that was one of many parts of me which, I don't know. Yeah, it was tricky. I don't know how I'd feel about it, because there's too many things that I've learnt about alcohol and stuff like that, and generally speaking, a lot. It's not as funny as I thought it was.
Okay, yeah. I hear you.
I
hear you
wouldn't
wholly.
mock
Yeah.
AA. Not that I've been to AA or anything like that, but
Oh right. Do you look back at this part of your life now and really reflect and resonate completely differently to how it was transcending at that time?
Oh yeah, I think, like, generally speaking, like, you'd be surprised, like, the amount of self deception that goes on with a lot of, like, problem drinking and stuff like that, and people can come out of hospital with, like, a broken collarbone and then go to work the next week and just be like laughing and joking like it was the best night ever, and it was you nearly died or something, so it was. Yeah, I don't know. Like, after I've uncovered and lifted the veil on a lot of things around drinking, if I went through those lyrics, although yes, they are funny, some of them I wouldn't want to sort of promote that.
It's quite raw, and you can tell what you were hiding from what you know now, and you've been given the facts.
Yeah, I mean, like, I suppose at the time when I wrote it, it was like alcohol was still really fun for me, so it was coming from a genuine place. But then through time it changed, and then now I certainly wouldn't want to advocate those kinds of situations that you end up in.
I know. Can we go back in the timeline then quite a bit? Because talking about music, has it just been your life? Has it been bred into you and fed into you throughout your family upbringing?
Yeah, it was always there. My dad, although he doesn't play an instrument, is a connoisseur of 70s rock and roll.
What, with the vinyl out and everything, old school?
Yeah, man. He's, it was always like he was, he was always like preaching, sort of like, Floyd, the Beatles, this kind of stuff. I remember one night before, when I was like maybe 12 or something. He went to bed. He just passed me the final cut on vinyl by Pink Floyd and just went, "You'll hate this." And he knew how to play me, because I instantly just sat there with the headphones on. And
I'll prove to you.
yeah, and it was just like the best thing I'd ever heard. I'm named after, do you know the song All Right Now by Free?
Yeah.
So the B-side of that track is a song called My Brother Jake. So I'm named after a Free song. And then, my brother's quite a successful musician, artist. And my mum writes songs and grade 8 on the piano and plays guitar and stuff like that. So,
Wow, okay.
it's always been.
Is it an older brother?
Yeah. He goes under the alias Roy of the Ravers.
Cool.
And he's there. Like his top song on Spotify's got like 500,000 streams, and he's doing really well.
You're in the music. I'm presuming you're going to classes. You're at school. Out of school, you're doing music.
Yeah.
What about first gig then? Where was it? Where you went? Do you know what? I'm doing music. This is what I want to do.
Well, the moment I realised wasn't a gig. Was the moment I realised was listening to.
Wow. That gave me shivers a little bit then, because I had a moment like that.
Yeah. What was your moment?
Again, well, probably just listening to Disney or something.
Yeah.
But as a kid, just thinking about what that feeling was giving me, and I listened heavily into the lyrics, and I know Disney. Look at my arm; I've got it all over me, and there's some beautiful moments in Disney.
Hey, that's a nicely drawn monkey right there.
For Rafiki, we've got Baloo. He actually saved my life. Baloo. That's another story. It was
sweet.
Lyricism. Lyricism always got to me. I remember me and my dad and my sister had to go on big journeys to Cornwall all the time. Family holiday stuff.
Yeah, same.
And we all got to choose a CD each. And I found The Streets, and I would only be about 7 or 8. And I was listening to original Pirate Material for some reason.
Album.
And so Eminem was my second album that got to come on after we went through my sister's Top of the Bus Steps or something. My dad had all the old school kind of Sam Cooke and stuff like that on. But I'd be going to really heavy lyricism stuff for some reason. I felt like I got it at the time. I really understood what they were saying. Same with A Grand Don't Come for Free.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of a concept album. I'm like, Dad, he's telling the whole story from song to song to song. And it was just, wow. And I felt what that was doing to me in that journey. I wanted to be able to replicate or be able to tell a story and make people just feel. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. So what's yours?
Well, I was going on school camp when I was 10, and I remember getting like my older brother was into music, and he was into the Prodigy and Orbital and the Chemical Brothers, and it was all like electronic music, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't mine, And then I eventually found Bon Jovi.
Was it?
And that was the first thing that was mine, and I had Keep the Faith on tape, and I remember listening, sharing headphones with an old school friend on the way to camp, just having one earphone in, and there's a track called Dry County on the album Keep the Faith, which is track 7 on the album. It's a 10-minute song, and there's a guitar solo in there about sort of 5 minutes in, which just, as soon as I heard it, it just it changed my life.
Wow.
Because that was the crossroad for me, where I heard that and I was like, I have to learn how to do that. There's no, there's a few, and then I did get bought a Stratocaster and fail. Well, not fail, but I didn't keep playing, I just sort of like played it for like a Christmas or a couple of days and then put it to one side, and it wasn't
guitars aren't just for Christmas.
Yeah, this is it. Apparently they are. But then but eventually, that never died. My love for American stadium rock and all of that, just the good times, like cheerleaders on roller skates and Cadillacs and big guitar solos and like ridiculous clothes. And huge guitar solos just absolutely blew me away.
That propel your journey then? Did you sort of go home and say, Dad, I need to learn how to do this?
That was the moment when I realised that I had to learn how to play guitar.
So was that with a tutor, or were you doing YouTube tutorials?
No, well, I mean, YouTube didn't exist then. So
what world is this?
so what I did was just I used to just sit with CDs and
How
just
old
try
are you,
and
dude?
copy.
Just out.
I'm 39.
Wow,
Yeah,
mate,
yeah.
you're looking phenomenal.
Thank you. Cheers.
Dude, I'm so shocked. I thought you were like, for some reason, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, all right.
So
cheers.
I thought maybe I was trying to go, YouTube could have existed, but no,
Yeah,
it really didn't.
Oh no, no YouTube, nothing.
Wow, okay, so carry on then. I just needed to find out.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm happy with my age. You know, I'm in my 30s. You know,
Wow, yeah, yeah.
I'm
I've
exactly
just got there.
David Brent's age.
You don't act like it.
No, but yeah.
I knew there was something shiny.
What have we got? So yeah. The Total Guitar magazine was something which I got given a load of from like a sort of guy who was my uncle, not my uncle, who played bass, who knew my mum and dad. He gave me a load of with each magazine came a CD, and then you'd usually get maybe like one or two backing tracks on a CD.
Yeah.
So I kind of taught myself the pentatonic scale with a little sort of handbook, which I got off my mum. And then I just played along with these backing tracks, and I think I got the Comfortably Numb backing track by Pink Floyd, which was my favourite, because it was the longest, and it's great music to play guitar over. But yeah, it was just because it was the backing track was the longest. It's probably like 7-8 minutes of being able to play over something without having to skip it back on my CD player, you know.
Well, yeah.
So no, there's no YouTube lessons or anything like that.
The pentatonic scale, I feel like I played that before. Is it usually over the blues?
Yeah, it's a real basic kind of beginner's scale, but it is great.
And that means you've got backing on, and you can sort of play any of those notes, and it will sort of work with the sound.
Yeah, all those notes will work. Yeah, it kind of it's not a minor scale, it's not a major scale. It's just a scale that works over both major and minor. So you can just it's a simplified, most used scale in popular music. So it's a good one to learn.
With music, do you enjoy the theory side of it? Do you enjoy sort of geeking out into music a little bit, or are you more just rock it?
I like the way, this might sound a little bit sort of hairy-fairy, but it's all about how the music makes you feel. So my favourite thing about music is like the moment a lyric hits a chord change, hits this part of a song, to like maybe like just 2 or 3 seconds in a song where it just all happens exactly the way you want it to, and that feeling that evokes is my favourite thing, which is why I love songwriting so much, because I'm always trying to create these little moments,
What about the lyricism and the writing then?
Lyrics.
How have you found that process, and what is yours?
Well, I've always, there's lots of ways to do it, but I usually write very autobiographically.
Yeah.
It's like a diary. It's
introspective.
Yeah. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's really sad. It's like just following and trying to follow in the footsteps of people like Loudon Wainwright and Neil Young and these people who are just I admire so much. Springsteen. And yeah, sometimes sometimes I do write a little bit more cryptically if it like suits the song. But like take for example, Noel Gallagher's lyric writing, where it's like not every line is like profound, but then within the whole song structure you might get 2 lines like I'm going to start a revolution from my bed because you said the brains I had went to my head.
Yeah.
Which is just phenomenal.
It is.
Genius.
Yeah.
But he writes more in a way usually where the words just sound good.
I don't know, but step into the eye of my mind. Don't you know you might find a better place to play? Who sings that?
They're all written by Noel.
I heard it the other day and I thought what a perfect setup for a song.
Yeah,
and it'll take us there. Now we're going to be inside of it and play.
Yeah. I tell you what, the one I heard which I hadn't noticed was like this was the beginning of Hotel California, which was on a dark desert highway. It shows you where you are. Cool wind in my hair. then you get the feeling, the warm smell of colitas, you get the smell rising through the air, and it literally just paints the picture one by one of all your senses.
Creative writing is fun. Do you know
Yeah.
when it's done right? I mean,
That's
mate,
perfect.
Not to do my story today, but I got kicked out of my school, and
Hey, me too.
mate, we're in it. We can talk then. But the only thing I got left with was a certificate to tell me I'm dyslexic, and I absolutely despise writing. I despised anything to do with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
And all it needed was somebody to get some music on, go through some lyrics of all these incredible people, Eric Clapton even, and talk to me about this is when he lost his kid and this is there. And because I was so sensitive as a kid, I had such a sensitive heart. And if you could have spoken to me on that way and then played something, I'd have been a different human for you back then. But it was so dry. Everything we were given was just analytical. And what did the poet think? I don't give a sausage about a poet. But if they could turn you into mini poets, I think that's a different kettle of fish. That's kind of my stance in going to education now, is try and just get the adrenaline, get the passion in the room. And then we can do the other analytical part. But my writing changed a lot because I was very what you see, what's in front of me, and tell a story, and I want everybody to be on board. Like my nan understands what I'm talking about. But then as I've gone on, the more cryptic style and metaphorical writing, I find it a lot more enjoyable now because I'm really searching for what does that mean for me and how can I tell that story. But I've enjoyed the process of it all. So it's similar with you. Has it changed in time?
Yeah, for me, it sort of changes song by song. Sometimes I've got something to say, and it's really specific, and then the music will come easier, because for me it would just be I just need something to say, and then the music will follow. But yeah, so with stuff that I do with the full band, when I've got all the lads going at it, and it's quite hard sort of indie stuff. And then I like being a bit more cryptic and saying these words that sound good. But yeah, and then when it's just an acoustic guitar and you're writing in your kitchen at sort of 2 a.m. and stuff like that, then it tends to get a bit more introspective. But I think I do prefer to be able to if you take like James Bond, for example, right?
Mate, take me there.
James,
I can do that.
James Bond, is gonna win. Before you go to the cinema. However, that's not why you go, because it's how he wins that is the bit that you want to find out. And it's if you can write like that for, say, something as simple as love. I'm always just trying to find a way of writing about something that's been written about 1,000 times in a new way.
Your way.
Or just some slightly different angle on it, and you hear it done every now and again, and I love that. But I think generally speaking, to answer your question, I do prefer writing so everyone can just understand it.
I think I got a bit too stubborn though. I was I like the streets, I want to talk like the streets, be the streets, and then I listened back to his music, and it was not as simplistic as I had it for as well. So all them senses, and I felt the wet on my jeans, and I feel that when he's talking about it, I'm in that picture with him.
That
everything in front of it.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. So, mate, you're engrossed in music. You found that massive pivotal moment of that guitar solo. You're going on the music train. Where does the alcohol and drink? We're not going to stick on alcohol and drinking, but I know it's a passion in there.
Oh no, we can definitely talk about it.
But where does that start really filtering in and becoming maybe a bit obsessive and an addiction side of things?
It's weird because I was never addicted to anything other than and I've done a lot of research and listened to a lot of things, read a lot of things, and it wasn't an addiction thing for me, as in there weren't sort of cravings and this kind of thing. It never got to that. When I stopped drinking, I didn't have withdrawal or anything like that. It was I was very much just a good time Sally,
You've always struck me as one of those.
And I still am, so it's okay.
You're podcasting today, good time Sally's coming through.
There we go. We've got a blues song brewing here.
Spoken word and Jake. I like that.
But But yeah, so I mean that's. I don't know. What was the question? Sorry, I forgot.
So sort of when you're going into the music scene and you're having a good time with it.
All
and you're
right, yeah. Oh man,
performing-
like I didn't realise that life was tough until I was about 32, 33. Like I really enjoyed it. Like a lot of people that you speak to, who've had problems with alcohol or drugs or something like that, they say that there's a window of enjoyment and it's like a year, 2 years. I had such a great time for such a long time. It was never destructive until it was, in the sense of I wasn't getting into fights, I wasn't going crashing cars, I was like, I was finding an old guy in a pub and talking about the Beatles until 6 a.m, you know what I mean? Or so, and this was like a blessing and a curse, obviously, because it enabled me to do it for much longer. But when it did start to change for me in those couple of years leading up to stopping, I was just like, that was the battle, was the fact that I hadn't changed anything yet, everything was changing, and I was like, well, why, and it took me a while to figure it out.
I've got a question here in the mix of all that.
Yeah.
Do you feel, because obviously you love music, that comes across and it exudes from you that you do love music, but in your younger stages, obviously the alcohol on top of that just turns it into a completely different thing, a new thing. It really exhilarates you and brings the energy different. Do you feel without the alcohol, you'd have kept pursuing music, or do you think it could have got a bit stagnant and boring because it's go to the gig, you do your music, you have a nice time, and then the aftermath is, oh, we've performed now, can listen to a bit of music, I'm ready to go home now, sort of thing. But because the music brought out this wild, eccentric, excitable character that just wanted to stay and keep going, do you feel you needed that patch to keep you going and put you through to where you are now? I mean, it's a bit of a packed question. It's very loaded.
I think I could give a very simple answer and say no. I think I would have done music irrespective of whether I was drinking a lot or not. And they weren't all. It wasn't always connected. Like the lads' holidays I'd go on when I was like 21 or something like that. That wasn't. I could sort of, if there was someone with a guitar, I'd probably go up and steal it off them. But apart from that, that was a separate thing. Yeah, I don't really know.
It's hard to think of, isn't it? And again, you really don't know, because you could have create any answer there.
I would have played music, whatever would have happened. I think things that I realised post giving up alcohol, like I would get smashed at solo covers gigs. And towards the end, we're talking in this little, like they call it the dance, when you've got a problem but you're still not doing anything, and then when I stopped drinking, I went to do these solo covers gigs, that was when I realised how terrified of it I was.
Okay.
And I hadn't. And then I look back and I think, oh, these are the ones where I was drinking loads at. And then it started to make sense, which is a good link to my new single coming out on the 9th.
I was thinking literally the same thing.
The 9th of June, which is called As Good As I Am, by me, Jake Buckley.
I do little snippets of this podcast, mate, and do it again. Talk to that camera. When's it coming out?
So my single is called As Good As I Am by Jake Buckley, and it's out on the 9th of June.
You heard it right here. Is that first as well? If I get that out soon?
Yeah.
You've heard it here.
Yeah. And that song is written about that. It's exactly about that. It's this kind of it's the internal monologue that goes on within like an artist or a performer's head.
Do you think the alcohol washed that away then?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was something. I mean, this is the problem with alcohol. It really works.
Yeah, it's
great. No, it's
antidote.
If you've got a bit of social anxiety, but that was the Jakey B that I'd built up over the years in my head and like in public, and like I was known in bars and for being this certain type of person. So.
But I suppose that's what
built up more pressure for me to go and.
I suppose that's what you told yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like that quote. You're not who you think you are. You're who you think they think you are.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it? You kind of what do they think of me? What are they
Yeah.
expecting to see tonight? You
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
go
yeah.
and deliver that at every time.
And
really,
it's all bollocks.
if you kind of went there and was a different person that day,
Yeah.
they might have a moment of, oh, is he all right? But
Yeah.
really, they'd be kind of chill with it.
I've got a good situation I've got a good story for a situation like that, and it was basically I was about 8 months into being alcohol free, and an old buddy of mine rang me up and was like, I hadn't seen him for ages, and he was like, do you want to go fishing? And I've never really been fishing before. I'm not a fisher man, angler, whatever. But I thought, it'd be good to catch up with him and whatever. So I agreed to this fishing trip. On the way there, he was like, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, but my mate Spiffy and Jimmy and Jongo and all are all going to be there." And I was like, "Who are all these people?" I thought it was going to be like a little one-on-one catch-up with my old mate, and he is like from the building trade and stuff like that. So it's us musicians and the builders. It's like these are like men. And anyway, so I sat by the riverbank, and he went off, and I got left with this guy. I can't remember his name now. But and we're about an hour in, beautiful sunny day, and I was really thirsty anyway. And then this guy just goes to me, and we were chatting for a bit, and he actually turned out he was sound.
Yeah.
Really sound guy, proper lovely like dude. And then we just got to that point in the conversation where we're really flowing, and he just looked at me and he went, "Hey, I've got a load of ice cold beers in the van, mate. I'll go and get us one." And I remember just thinking, like, my heart just kind of sank. I was like, "Oh no!" And he went off, and he came back, and he had it in, like how you'd hold a cigarette. He had a bottle of Bud in his hand like this, and he just kind of passed it down to me like this. No, sorry, a bottle of Beck's. And I remember looking at it. And it was like, it wasn't even a big, one of those little bottles of Beck's you get in like a multi-pack. They're like not real size. Now I would have just taken, 13 of these to the cleaners without even thinking about it back in the day, but it was like, I just held it in my hand there, and I was just like, a simple Beck's, like a Peep Show, Johnson.
Your world's closing in.
I just looked at it and I thought, it looked so innocent, this bottle of
See
Beck's.
it on a film with a big net thing around it where it just looks straight in on it. It's honing in on this Beck's, and the inner dialogue's just going wild.
And I felt this slight wave of anxiety that I didn't want to. I was still at a point where I wasn't fully comfortable just saying, "Hey, look, I don't drink, or I'm alcohol free, or I've drank all mine," which is which is what I say a lot now, which I stole from Alice Cooper. It's like, "Why don't you drink?" It's like, "I've had all mine." But anyway, so there was the Beck's, and then I sort of paused for a second. No, it was longer than a second, probably about 30 seconds, and I just turned to him and I just went, "Oh man, thank you so much, but I don't drink, like, so I don't want to waste it, so." And expecting, this is like me expecting him to judge me, what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And he just went, "I'll tell you what, I've got a flask of coffee in the van as well, and I've got some cream. It's absolutely banging stuff." And I was like,
mate.
he's like, "Do you fancy that?" And he was just like, it wasn't a biggie for him. And I had such
so
a...
So that 30 seconds of you completely in agony, not knowing what to say next.
Yeah.
And that moment
And then I realised there's another way.
Well,
and it was
there's always another way.
But when you're in the depth of, drinking loads, I never felt like there was. Like, how could I do this gig? How could I do this? How could I go to a wedding? How could I go to a stag do? How could I, it would, these would be impossibilities without drinking. And then these little moments happen, and that was such a sort of beautiful little crossroads of like, you see,
was
this
that
is
sort of
sliding doors moment,
moment listening to that solo?
Well,
that music there, you were like, oh, and I can live my life like this now as well.
I mean, slightly different. I mean, there were definitely, there were big, there were big moments, but this one was more like, that was more like an inspirational booster. So it was like, here we're going here, and then but that was more like just two ways, and I was like, this way is impossible. And I was like, and then it was in that moment where I was like, no, it's not impossible, is it? Let me just tell this dude who's offering me a beer.
taking that road though, because I bet other people have relapsed in that moment, or
Yeah,
gone
I
the
reckon
other
they would
way.
have, because it was this. It was a beautiful
He didn't
summer's
know
day.
you,
He
you
didn't
had
know me.
a new character.
No
you
one
could
was there. I could have
shown.
No, you know, it was.
Yeah.
It was all set up like it was on purpose. But yeah, that was such a good moment.
Right, so that's beautiful, and we can talk a bit more about your song here as well, because so you've had alcohol for a long time doing gigs and performances, and it's washed out those people in the back that are getting on your tits, and these are talking. Then you've got a guy here chanting at you, "Play fucking Oasis" or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is why the song's so great. I'm not going to give all of it away, but what was the first gigs like then? When you're going sober and the inner dialogue's coming back to you, have you found mechanisms and ways to get through that and channel it into the music again?
Yeah, they were tough at first, really difficult, because I was just in free flow before, where I didn't have to think, and I was so used to that. And this is without even mentioning, you know, all the other guys in the band drinking or doing shots before we go on, and these kind of things, you know. So yeah, it was difficult. I felt really wooden on stage. Yeah, I didn't enjoy. It was very difficult at first, because when I quit drinking, I went on tour for 28 days. I'd been without booze for 10 days, and then we flew. You know,
that's a great story. Yeah.
So yeah, this was it. You know, it was like.
That was where you had to sort of break it to the band, wasn't it? And you come out like you felt you were coming out the closet.
Yeah,
don't drink. I love that.
I'm dry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, and that was difficult. Yeah, I really found it difficult at first, you know, and it was. But then, if I could like say like moments that sort of when it changed, and I started noticing more things, just generally speaking. So what I would think was a good thing by just being in free flow and then the night just happening, like. And then being sort of hyper aware in these situations. I remember sort of like one of the early weddings where we were finishing the night on Hey Jude, and the bride and groom went into the middle of the dance floor. All of their friends sort of like linked up around them in a circle, and I remember just like, I hope I didn't look like a serial killer just going like this, but I just went from person to person, and I just saw how unbelievably happy they all were, laughing, joking. All of them. I looked at everyone, and it was just this amazing. I mean, you know, for us it was
hyper aware.
Just another wedding, like not just another wedding. Like,
I know what you're saying,
but it was kind of work. But
this
then for these guys, this is their pinnacle life moment.
Yeah,
you know, and we're providing it. And then there was a satisfaction, job satisfaction in that moment, which I would have never got drinking. Yeah, I would have enjoyed that moment. I would have been probably more a part of it than a spectator.
You wouldn't have been able to talk about it the way you're articulating
it.
No way.
No, it would have just happened and then just been nothing. So, and there's little moments like that, and not to mention sort of like getting into the crowd and all this kind of stuff. Like when I do it now, and it's like there's that level of authenticity. It's like, there. I dare to do this. This is my confidence doing this. This isn't anything else, you know. Like and that goes for everything now. So that these moments when you break through just feel just unbelievable.
Was there any introspective moments for you where you realised, is this me or is this the alcohol? Did you ever lose yourself in that point? Could I even be this without the alcohol?
Yeah. It was like, I don't know, like even when I was sober, I'd walk into a door and I'd be like, hold on, I used to think that was the alcohol. No, I'm just clumsy motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Blamed on that. Oh, damn you, alcohol.
Yeah, I've been blaming alcohol for all this stuff.
I'm the dick.
Yeah. There were things. You know, I used to hide behind alcohol towards the end, and I really feared that I would be looked on as not fun, not, you know, boring. All of these things were top of the list of problems when I first gave drinking. Yeah. So imagine how glorious it is when you realise none of them are true.
And not that you're trying to sell this as a package. Everybody get off alcohol. It's game over. No, but this question that's going to ensue it. But can you give some other things that not drinking has provided for you at gigs and other parts of your life that is selling points for you?
Like, well, I certainly wouldn't want to sell anything.
No,
I can say my
Experience of
yeah,
it.
my experience of this is that I'm completely aligned with the things that are the most important to me in my life. The things that I want to do, I do.
Yeah.
And then things can snowball from there, which makes more things that I never thought I could do that I do. And it's been a constant unraveling of being surprised by things that I've accomplished and done. And that's all down to not drinking for me.
Yeah.
And then, like even things like just, being there for my family, like, or my mum and she's not been well, or my sister as she's raising her kids, like, like her two kids, they know exactly who Uncle Jake is when I turn up buying them, chocolate buttons and sunglasses and stuff like that. It's like I'm so present and I can, and after so long of being a very loving but very unreliable person in everyone's life, to being this completely accountable, like you can call me day or night, and I will answer the phone, as in, my authentic self who's there for you, and I've got it to give now. Whereas before, when I was hanging on, and I was having to lean on good friends to help me out, and now I can be there and not so much pay that back, but it feels good to be dependable.
What's the character, this autonomous character that you are? Is it Jake Buckley? Is that an alias?
Jakey B.
Yeah, because you've got Jakey. The question B was, I know Jake now. I'm meeting Jake. I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
and you are authentic and a lovely chap, and I'm enjoying this. Come back.
Yeah.
I like you. I've got a mate now.
Yeah. This is great.
But what I wanted to do was jump back into. Can you describe a bit more about Jakey B and that?
Jakey B.
That guy, because
Jakey B or Bookers, all these
Jakey B and Bookers. So when he'd be on it and he'd be at his sweet spot, talk to me about who came out then and what characters and traits sort of you'd see.
I mean, I would rap a lot.
Okay,
I think it was like The Mask.
Yeah.
Or these kind of situations where it was these, like, it's taken a lot of healing for me to be able to look back now and love that guy, like, genuinely, because there's a point where you kind of try and demonize your past to make your present make sense, but he was a good guy, and he was trying, like,
oh mate, this is lovely.
like, really was trying, but I hadn't figured it out yet, but that guy was, he would, I suppose I could be selfish, I could be loud and shouty, these I could be not the best, like, boyfriend, in a sense of maybe I wouldn't listen, or like I just didn't have the depth yet. So if I was like on tour or something, I'd just be like, hey, it's my job, deal with it. Or instead of having like an understanding of how that made someone else feel. Seems quite obvious, doesn't it?
But what you just said then, I really applaud, and I love that you've made friends with that character.
Yeah. Oh, big time, yeah.
I did a course with a good friend of mine who's a therapist and a counsellor, psychotherapist, and he does this thing called character work. He's got a cool book out called How to Solve All Life's Problems. And I was like, who's this dick? And when I was talking to him, I thought, no way. And then I got talking, I was like, you can do it.
Yeah. Oh, really? Can he?
Like, I think he can.
All right, yeah. Send me a link.
Mate, and he's got a real cool method. And we do this thing called character work. And he was talking to me about his characters that he's created. It sounds like multiple personality disorder. But if you can really look at all these characters through time and why they've been built through your childhood, often the programming and where they've come from, it starts to all make sense. But his story, and it's a lovely story, he had a really horrible character called Bane, as you would. Okay. But he was really angry all the time. And there was one night where he's in his big apartment, he's made a lot of money, he was a lawyer and really good with his words for people. But when he'd be on closed doors, he was this angry, horrible man. And this character, Bane, would always just come out.
Yeah.
And then he's having this night on his own, and he's talking to Bane in his head and out loud. It's like, seriously, you fuck up all my relationships, you fuck up my life. When I'm with my friends and I've fallen out and we're drinking, I'll just use this anger and project it all over them. I'm sick of you, you're ruining my life. And he's like, got a bottle of vodka and he's smashed it against the wall and he's just done with life. He's so angry. But Bane started talking back, and Bane said, Paul, that's fine. You can think like that all you want. But remember, there was a character waiting in the wings if I wasn't here. And he said, oh, well, who's that then? And he goes, oh, and it gets me emotional, actually. He goes, oh, it's the one that was going to kill you. And I just thought, wow, I hated, like, many of my characters.
Yeah.
But to have hatred for parts of you, but realise they've actually all got you to this point in life.
Yeah.
And that angry person, yeah, you can look at it and go, fuck you, you've ruined all these things. But actually, there's probably worse characters in the wings that you've not deployed because they were there and they got you through to this moment where you're at now. Yeah. And then it start taking away the good parts of them. Like you've got JKB where you're like, I like the loudness, I like the play, I like the fun. But I just didn't like it when he got this far and he did this. So it gets me emotional always telling that story because I'm like, man.
It's exactly that. Though.
I had that guy. Yeah. I had characters, but I fell in love with them eventually because I realised they've got me to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And then we can take all the good parts away because we've got a bit more conscious awareness and about it. So, yeah, that was lovely that you said that, man.
Yeah.
So... let me have a minute.
No, it's nice, isn't it?
I just love really cool people that have been on long journeys and self-discovery, and we've all sort of got to similar points in life and we can share it. I think it's beautiful. But where you're at now then, would you say this is the optimal, the healthiest, the happiest state where you've been at in your occupation, in your life, in your relationship? Are you at a really good central point now?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And see you next week, guys.
I mean,
have you had a moment of reflection of it all, going, wow, I didn't expect to be at this point, because I kind of imagine myself to be JKB, the drinker, the play guy till my 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't really get there.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, I romanticised about, drinking red wine on the porch and and in my 60s or whatever, and that stuff I've all let go, and that's fine. No, I'm in a very good place now. Aside from all the general life stuff which happens to everybody, which... life finds a way of just throwing some shit at you every now and again, doesn't it? But aside from that, my mental health is great. It feels really nice to, if I do have a tricky period or something happens I kind of know what to do. Like I run a lot, and that really helps me meditating, these kind of things.
I'm glad you said a few other things there, because I was wondering, most times when people have got such a crux in their life, or I know you weren't addicted, but something they rely on so much, you imagine you've got to replace that with something eventually. So you have found other things and mechanisms.
I mean, and I still go out now as well, so it's not stopped that.
That's
still
cool.
Love going out, like
socializing.
When clubbing, like in Israel, about a month ago, and I had such a good time.
Just drop that there.
It was great. But things that really matter when you're clubbing sober are the people you're with.
Yeah.
I happened to be with 2 or 3 people that I absolutely love, and they were legends and still are. 2, the music usually is awful out there, but we found this place that was just playing. Probably like from 95 to sort of 2002 hip hop.
Oh wow!
It was all NWA, Dre, Snoop, like Beastie Boys, all the good stuff.
Fiddy.
Yeah, a little bit of Fiddy in there.
No.
And it was great, So it's nice to just flirt with it every now and again. After that, I needed a couple of days not going out, But yeah, still go out, run a lot, gym a lot, friends, writing music. Obviously, since I've been sober now, I produce as well. So there's artists like Katie Keddy, and then there's a guy called Ninth Sign, and Sharon Watkins, and these people
all great artists,
who's singles and albums that I've produced now would have never happened.
Katie got a headline show coming up.
Katie Keddy is got a headline show at Bodega on the 17th of June. Tickets available in her bio on Instagram.
You're not
we
even
love
just
Katie.
rating it for yourself, but you can do it for everyone else.
No, she's amazing and just a joy to work with. So yeah.
And how did your friends receive you? Because they all fell in love with this one guy. They must have fell in love with the guy who was sober too. You had a lot of them times. How was that taken?
Yeah, I mean, I think at first you have to be extra careful, and to keep yourself out of these situations. Oh, I say keep yourself out of it. I was just in a pub for a month straight.
Wow.
But after that, there's a little bit of self-preservation that goes on, and I was lucky, I think, in the sense that a lot of my friends, pretty much all of them, were really supportive. There were some of the ones which had maybe heavier drinking habits that I don't see quite as much now, but still have a really good relationship with. But obviously, it was things that were based around just going for beers. If that's what people want to do, there really isn't there's not a replacement that's like that, So, but then also, the realization of if anybody did not want to spend time with me because I didn't drink, that was no loss for me.
Yeah.
And being strong enough to just be like, okay,
accept that.
Fine. Like it's not good or bad. It's fine. It's not going to affect me. It doesn't bother me. It's certainly not going to change my decision or trajectory.
And I know you don't like to give advice, but you're quite heavily involved in the music scene.
Okay.
I believe you be.
Yeah.
And you'll see loads of 17, 18, 19-year-olds coming into it.
Yeah.
And then you can see that moment where the young you is within them somewhere. Do you ever look to help those? Would you give them advice now or anything?
About music?
Just I suppose if they came up to you then and said, do you have to drink when you're on this path? Do you know what I mean? I can imagine they would have those feelings where they go, oh, it feels like I'm really on it now. And the conscious and aware ones that want to pursue music and the career but feel, oh no, I've got to play this persona anymore.
As opposed to sort of finding them, seeking them out and interfering.
Yeah.
I think that's what this whole sober rock and roller thing is about.
Being the change you want to see.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So it was always just
I love that. I love that you've said that, and now that totally makes sense as well.
Yeah. It's like I don't want sobriety to look boring, because it isn't. And it's like this secret, because it's so good. But it does still feel like a little secret, like a little cheat code. You know what I mean?
Now you've said it, I don't think many people are doing it. Are there lots of rock and rollers and people in the music scene advocating it? And really...
I mean, you would be surprised. It's usually people who are a little bit older and stuff like that. But there are a lot of us around.
Amazing.
But in the sense, when I thought about the Instagram and stuff, it took quite a lot of guts for me to change my name to Sober Rock and Roller, because of that little internal battle that I had with not wanting to be seen like a preacher or anything. But I felt like it was the right time to do it, and it was like, look, this is what sobriety looks like. I'm doing all of this cool stuff. It's like I'm still, living that rock and roll lifestyle, but it's just, it's just green tea instead of loads of cocaine.
Boo.
But yeah, I wouldn't push it down anyone's. I wouldn't push it down anyone's throat. But yeah, I do enjoy the fact that I put my story and my journey and my music and everything out there for people to see.
Yeah.
And if they want to reach out, then I make it very easy for that to happen, and it does every now and again.
Does it happen? Have you been received really well? Have you had that?
Yeah, I have had
lovely conversations.
Yeah, and I've made some great connections, and
wow.
I've sent people in the direction of professionals who can help them, because I would give them my advice and on I just think it's really important that people seek out professional help as opposed to just take one guy's advice.
I feel the inspiration and feel that buzz of, wow,
But
look
if you
what
need
he's
help,
doing.
then go and listen to someone who's trained in it.
Yeah.
And they'll really help you out as opposed to just.
I think that reflecting is one of my biggest lessons on the way, was especially when I went in my hippie stage, smoking all the dope, man. We're going to change the world.
Good to miss that.
Yeah, mate.
You're still in
I've
it
got
a little bit.
Yeah, man. Just need a robe. But I had a proper big beard. But again, it was that really wanting to drag people out of the mud and say, come follow, I know what to do.
Yeah.
And then it was, oh no, you still need to work on yourself massively. And really sort of looking at who you are as a person and what you're emitting out and showcasing and emanating. That's the way to change people, isn't it? Being a lovely, kind, funny human, that is a better representation than telling people what to do. I like that you're always quite you try and hold off on that. I don't want to tell people what to do. I don't want to give advice here. I'm just talking about my lived experience. I'm sharing that, and hopefully there's some gems on the way.
Yeah, and the right ears in the wrong kind of situation will probably prick up when they hear me talk about some of the experiences that I've been through. You know, because I know that when I was doing the dance of knowing I had to change, my ears would prick up when I heard any. If I saw, you know, someone out there who was ripping big guitar solos and, you know, in a rock band playing to loads of people, writing songs, producing, like wearing ridiculous outfits, but was sober, that would have caught my eye, and I would have been like, hang
on, you can still do that.
Yeah, you can still do it. It seems so obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah, wow.
But I know how difficult it can be to see that.
What other resources did you find? You were talking about podcasts.
Yeah.
Was there a pivotal one of them as well?
Oh yes. Oh my goodness me, yes. Like there's a podcast called Sober Full with one L, and that podcast literally saved my life.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, mate, we're very similar people. I had a podcast do that for me.
Yeah. And I'm dyslexic as well, and we both got chucked out of school.
I think there's definitely another 2 or 3 episodes in this we need to go on. So I love that.
But and there's basically, you know, if anyone is struggling with alcohol, and they're worried that it's not having a positive effect on their life, there's an episode called "The 5 Pillars of Sustainable Sobriety" by Veronica Valley, and you find it under the name Soberful on Spotify or anything like that. She's got a book out as well. And that 40 minutes changed my life.
Really?
Because I was wondering where my place was in this new sobriety world that I'd uncovered. I looked into AA and I was like, no, I don't fit in here.
Just on a side note, what was it about AA that didn't speak your language?
I know I know a lot of people have got a problem with the sort of like the religious aspect of it, and I don't know. It just didn't feel right. That's all I knew. You know,
it's a good indicator.
Yeah. And I'm a feeling guy.
Yeah.
And there was other things as well. You know, and I was just wondering like where I fit in, and then I
felt there maybe am I joining a cult?
Yeah. Maybe there's a little bit of the cult vibes going on.
Whereas here you're going, oh, just people that get me.
But yeah, when I listened to that podcast, I suddenly realised why AA wasn't for me, and it was this woman's teachings were just perfect, and just really resonated with me like no one else who's ever spoken about sobriety before, and then everything seemed to make sense and still does. I still listen to that podcast religiously. And fear the day that they stop making episodes. But whenever anyone,
would you never try and do your own podcast and get them on it? Because that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean she's big time, you know.
Okay.
No, I'll leave the podcast into her. Okay. I want to write songs, help people write music. Because my life as well is kind of like. I like the sobriety enables me to do other stuff, and I love that. But it's not like I get sober and then I just want to do loads of sober. It's kind of like it's just it starts to take a back seat a little, not a back seat, but it starts to be less. It's not as important as it is in the early days, you know. I don't know if,
I totally get what you're talking about. Yeah, you pursue that path, then it's everything, and that moment, and the identity's there.
Yeah.
But then when you realise, that is part of me now, I can just let that be and become that.
Yeah.
You can introduce other bits to your life again, and just understand that's going to sustain itself.
Yeah. So. And if it ever does. If things ever do get bad, then I go back to basics.
Yeah.
You know. But if anyone does reach out to me and need help, then I always send them that episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you talk any bits of it where it really connected and you thought, okay, why didn't I just think like that?
Well, it's very difficult because it's also because she says it so well. To paraphrase it without
completely rehashing it.
Yeah. I mean, she says things like, you know, if you're in a situation where you have to have an awkward conversation with someone, she says, say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean.
Oh.
And it was like little things like that.
Mate.
I was just like.
We were talking before the podcast, and that's kind of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was talking about.
And these little things, and I think for me it was more that feeling of not being alone in my journey as well, because early sobriety can be quite a lonely place when everyone seems to be swimming down the river one way, and you're just like, well, this is loads harder. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know? And then that was the kind of the little light. The little spark that I saw was just this person just talking like her, you know, the story of how she got sober and stuff like that. Although it's different, like everyone's is, but they also have these huge chunks of that you can relate to and are the same. And yeah, it talks about, you know, balance and you know, boundaries and all this kind of stuff. But it's more the way it's said and how it's sort of neatly wrapped up, because she's got, you know, 300 episodes, but this one is like her almost a mission statement, you know.
Did you get sent that episode, or did
you
accidentally fall into it?
Yeah, just searching,
scrolling down and thinking this one.
Just searching for help anywhere, you know, like so this was, I found it while I was on tour in those 28 days.
But that particular episode, is that her first one that's a go-to?
No, that was about so I listened to about 3 episodes before that, and then that episode came on.
Right.
And I was really struggling with, at that point, when all I wanted to do was go out and party, like her co-host, Chip Summers, who's the guy
Chip Summers?
Yeah. He got Russell Brand.
Yeah. I've seen their documentaries and stuff together as well.
Yeah, so he's the other
he speaks
co-host.
So highly of him, doesn't he?
Oh, he's an absolute legend. And he had a moment where he was talking about his bees, like, is it apiarist or something? I can't remember. Don't know what the word is when you keep bees. And I remember just my first impressions were, this is the most boring thing I've ever heard in my life. I want to go and have 8 Jaeger bombs and go and dance on that table. Why am I listening to a 70-year-old guy talk about his bees? But I couldn't have been more wrong. Like it was just a bit of a sea change for me to go from party lifestyle to this, you know, this subtle, beautiful world where you start noticing how pretty the pollen is, and not the pollen, the you know, the blossom and all this kind of stuff,
the sound that
the birds
the buzz
and the bees,
makes,
this kind of stuff. You know, it was all just starting for me. But
are you on a spiritual path?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think things are that. I think I'm a spiritual person, but not in.
It's nuanced.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
I hear you. So, but that mindfulness, that being present, that really seeing things in a different way and changing the perspective of things.
In that sense.
Of a path.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It just falls under that bracket.
Yeah.
It's a big umbrella.
Yeah.
You get other people in the umbrella where you're like, get out of here.
I'm still learning these things, you know, because like the Jakey B or Bookers, it's so far
no, I get
from that this, you know.
It's interesting because I've watched a lot of Chip's documentaries.
Okay, I've not seen these.
There's some interesting ones, and there's one because he really speaks about abstinence-based recovery, doesn't he? And different bits of addiction, and there's some really, because obviously you don't think you're an addict, or you weren't an addict, but he speaks a lot about addiction. So how is it so different? I'm very alien to that.
I mean, these are the things that I.
Could you move the mic just a bit closer?
Yeah.
Awesome, cheers.
Yeah,
where's your mic control, dude?
I know. I'm getting too into this. I hate people that do that. Weddings and stuff like that. It's like, and we're gathered here. Right, put the mic to your mouth, mate. And now I'm that guy.
You just
I've become what I've hated.
Last 5 minutes, I've been staring at you. What are you doing to me?
The addiction side of things. So, I would class myself after doing a lot of research and educating myself that I was a problem drinker, and that alcohol was becoming a big problem in my life. But it wasn't. I don't think I was addicted to it.
I hear you.
And this isn't some kind of self-deception kind of thing where if I was an alcoholic, I would have said that proudly. I think this was one of the things with AA that never sat with me, And
I hear you.
I think there's that in society you kind of have this idea of what an alcoholic looks like. And then everyone else is fine, So you're either on a park bench with a bottle of brandy in a brown bag, and you're an old guy, like just a complete mess, and that's what an alcoholic looks like, or you're fine, And there's just this huge sort of grey area drinking and stuff like that, which I found myself in, which I don't think is spoken about quite as much. So
no, that's what I'm really quite interested on, where the lines blur and the cross.
Yeah, well, I think it's getting uncovered, like that anyone, no matter how well your life could seem from the outside, you know what I mean. There could
have
be
the potentiality to be in that.
Of course,
area.
yeah.
Do you think addiction is a disease? From your listenings and your hearings,
it's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know.
One that you
I
feel
don't,
maybe
I don't
not.
feel like I had a disease.
But yeah, so you're not sure. Both of us aren't qualified to answer.
No.
But from your listenings and what your podcasts and sort of paths down, you're saying you're not sure on how to answer that question.
I think
But
it's
have a feeling. Is there something
more often than not? It's a byproduct of trauma.
I hear you.
That I know.
Have you heard of the 2 studies they did on addiction? These are on Chip's podcast. He did the documentary with Russell.
Okay.
And then they met the drugs chief, who's Dr. David Nutt, which is quite funny. Just a nutty
Dr.
professor.
Nutt, yeah. All right,
yeah. These were 2 interesting studies they did. The first one was Rat Utopia. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it all talks about environment and stuff.
Yeah.
And they had these 2 water funnels, and when they put the rats in a really shitty environment, nothing to do, I think it was just a cage, and one water was laced with cocaine and the other one was just water.
Yeah.
I think it was a ridiculous percent, maybe like 85-90% all went to the cocaine water and just drank themselves to death eventually. But then they did another study, because then they put them in a massive unit facility where they could have as much sex and play and crazy times as possible. And in that, only like 10% went to the cocaine-laced water, and all the others went there. But I think the way they furthered that study, because they were like, well, why are there still some rats going to cocaine when we've created this incredible environment where they can just play and do what they want? So then they looked at those rats, looked at the way the dopamine was released and the serotonin, and apparently it was really close to how addicts' brains would release serotonin and dopamine when they were given a stimulant and a substance. So what they did with these rats was put them in a box with a shutter, and they press a button, and then they'd be rewarded with cocaine. And most of them could just stop, so they press the button, go, get it, and then eventually like, I'm fucking out, I don't want this. But the ones that had that spike of dopamine constantly just did it till death, and they just keep going. So that was something I'd heard and made me feel, it sounds like addiction is a disease then, or could be. And I resonated with it, because I remember me at parties on the sniff or whatever, but all my mates would be going, and they're like, I'm chill now, do you want to just walk and talk or play some music. And I was like, have you got any more?
Yeah.
So that was one
Everyone
feeling
I hung
for
out
me.
with was the more type.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was just, that was on the documentary I listened to, and I thought,
Yeah, that's
ooh.
interesting. I'm not ruling out that it is. That's why I was tentative about saying it.
Interesting conversation, isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's good to reiterate, we're not experts, we're not doctors.
No, not at all.
But I do like a good
Yeah.
conversation.
It certainly didn't feel like a disease for me. It felt,
I hear that. You could have just stopped cut clear if you wished to, but you were like, why would I wish to when I'm having these times?
Yeah. It was just good times are being had. So
I respect it.
and I didn't want. Yeah, there was definitely an element of like not wanting to in all those times. You know, I was like, anything. You know, when I started figuring it out, I was like, oh no, I know what it is. Like, please, anything but the booze. You know?
Oh wow, it was unraveling for you.
Oh yeah, I was trying to moderate. And I'm just going to have Chateau Neuf de Pape on Tuesdays and stuff. You know? All these little weird hoops.
Rum
that
truffles.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just on the song again then, because I'm interested.
Yeah.
We've spoke loads about addiction and the alcohol, and where can people find you if they want to talk about it? Because I bet they've enjoyed some of this conversation.
Yeah. So if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram as Sober Rock and Roller. That's sober and then rock N roller with an A. And yeah, my website's www.jakebuckleymusic.
So they can get in touch with you there if they've enjoyed part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And,
Instagram's a great place for chatting. And
But with that song then, I'm guessing, because I really enjoyed the song you sent over, and the one that we're advertising today, which is out when? Oh, come on, dude. The
9th of June. The 9th of June.
9th of June. And what's it called?
As Good As I Am.
So I've heard that, and I've had many situations performing a gig and very similar experiences.
Yeah.
Was that wrote with passion at the end of a night one night, or is it just about loads of different gigs you've done?
It's a collective of emotions, and yeah, I think there was. I can't remember if there was a specific gig that triggered it, but there probably was. And then I got the idea for it, the concept for it, and then, like I say, as soon as I've got that, it just flowed out.
I was just gonna say, was it a song that wrote itself so quickly?
That one was, yeah. Yeah, just because, and usually when I've got something to sing about, like I said earlier, the lyric, and it was kind of like I had so many lyrics, I was just trying to fit them in. It's why each chorus is slightly different. It's because I just had so much to say. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to releasing this one because although everything that I've released so far has been like me, I feel like this is the most me.
Yeah. Music video?
So there's been videos for all my other ones. My videographer has just got a new job, so I've done all of the content for this one DIY.
Wow.
Which I've actually really enjoyed.
I was going to say, I bet that felt pretty good then.
Yeah, it's good and it's
cathartic.
Cheaper. So yeah, I've been, and obviously there's plenty to talk about with the subject matter of the song as well. So I've got videos going into, all
documenting.
Yeah, details of, not so much documenting, but I suppose documenting, just talking through the lyrics, talking about the concept,
awesome, all
this kind of stuff, and then just various different, lyric videos. The guy who played piano on it, I've got the isolated piano tracks of his takes, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to put all that out there and do a little bit of the sort of behind the scenes kind of, the making of kind of stuff. So I've got quite a lot of content, but no music video.
Being quite self-sufficient and learning all the different elements.
I've been doing that for every single anyway, and this was stuff that how have I found it? It's a battle, isn't it? And there's lots
Mate,
of
you've seen today.
Yeah.
Just go over there a minute. Oh, I can't get myself in focus.
There's lots of cliches, but I think the truest cliche in this sense is enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And it's like, and sometimes it's different understanding what that sentence means and then actually living it.
Living it.
I've had these moments where I've managed maybe like 2 or 3 weeks of actually enjoying the process.
Yeah.
And then something will try and pull me back down, and like because I'm making all of these, reels and TikToks, I find myself on these apps too much. And then there's the battle with social media and this kind of stuff. So it's a constant battle for me, But generally speaking, I do enjoy it.
90% of the time. 85.
Yeah.
40.
Like
whittling down here, dude.
I do enjoy. I enjoy it, but of course, like this is the thing with social media. It's like I care about what I'm doing so much, and then you put all the effort into it that it's a natural way to be. It's naturally you want something to do well after you put this much effort into it. But with social media, you just have all of the analytics there.
Mate, yeah, that's interesting.
And then you get into the numbers of it, and like there was. So for example, I had one little video which I did of a song called the Damaged Goods Blues, and it was like I put that up, and then about a week later it had like 12. I don't know, like something like 400 views or something, and I was just like.
Never 12 then. I've never had 12. No.
All right, yeah. Well, this is it. Everyone's on their own different scale, aren't they? But it's like for me, I was like, oh, this is. I really thought this was great.
Yeah.
I took it down, and then 2 days later, I got a message from somebody's mum. Just going, hey, I know this is a bit random, but my 7-year-old son is absolutely gutted. This video, his favourite video's gone or whatever.
Oh, mate.
And I was just like, what is it? And it was like the one where you say this, and this, and you're talking about this, and I was just like, oh man, I shouldn't have took that down,
Did you pop it back up that day?
I sent him the full song.
Oh mate.
Because obviously you have to take it down to a minute or whatever, but it's these little things, and it's that battle with the numbers, that
I'd love to discuss that slightly.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
How do we not? I'll give my advice. My advice is post and ghost. I've deployed that really successfully now.
Okay.
It took years.
And how long are you ghosting?
I just ghost. I honestly post it up and I don't look. And I know that sounds untrue, but it is. I do this mate, when I started doing my rhythmical mic thing, it was Thursdays, every Thursday for, I don't know, nearly a year.
Okay.
And then one time I got a music video done and I hit like 60,000, or it started like some stuff were going like 100,000. I was like, Dad, imagine a stadium with 100,000 people in it. And then, I tailed off that scent a little bit. It wasn't poetry anymore for me. I wanted to do other things and it just faded a little bit. I thought I've not had passion in my life before. I got kicked out of school. I went travelling, didn't know what I wanted to do at all, and found a thing. I tied my identity to that thing, and that was it. But then I realised, what have I missed out on life? What else could I have wanted to do? So I pursued loads of other bits. And then when I'd stopped doing my poetry, I'd post something again, and it was like 300 people, like you say.
Yeah.
You go, fuck, I've just spent so much money, time, effort into it. And it seems, I don't know what it is. I can blame it on loads of, the algorithms have changed, or maybe I just got shit. Whatever it was. And it was really damaging me. My mental health, my attitude about it all. Because it was a thing I loved for just loving its sake. And a cathartic way of expressing what I was going through. And then suddenly I was like, but you must not be the same artist anymore. You can't be the... So I've just realised how unhealthy it was. And again, it was a podcast episode for me where somebody mentioned... just please do your absolute best to stop thinking about all that. And he said that do the old post and ghost. And I just tried it out, and I was creeping in and doing that sort of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then go back round again. And honestly, I just create something I love. I've listened back to it. I go, is that me? Is that the entirety? Is that honest? Is it authentic? Put it up, and I'll just go, I think that's it now, and not go back to it unless I want to watch it just for nostalgia or something like that. So that's what I've deployed. But I know I'm not trying to make this my living. I just do it because I love it now. But maybe people do have to have a bit more notice about algorithms and stuff if they're trying to pursue it as an occupation. So it's not the best advice, but it's worked in my world.
Yeah. It feels like you're possibly, further along that path than I am.
I get you.
But yeah, there's obviously an element to it where to study your analytics and to see what videos are doing good and bad, and then do more of that, like with the eventual goal of, you know, just getting the thing that you love the most to be heard by more people. You know, like it comes from such an honest place, but then, yeah, the waters are murky, aren't they?
They are. Mate, I think me and you should start a podcast together. I've got a feeling, honestly, because we could have a topic like that and go
deep on it
as far and wide as we wish.
Yeah, it is interesting, that one. And you know, I like things that have worked for me in that sense is sort of phone out of the room, bedroom when I sleep, which is
That's
probably the most successful one I've had. And actually,
notifications off.
Yeah, it's just gone.
Yeah. Well, of course.
You know, it's in another room. Stick it on charge.
But that was a second idea. Notifications off.
Yeah.
For when it's day and in your pocket.
Yeah.
I take them off.
Yeah. No, I still have notifications on.
Oh, do you?
This is it. It was like
I knew you were looking at me alien then. Like, what's this?
I was like, notifications. They're the best bit. Right.
So, Jake, I've realised I've booked in another podcast.
Yeah.
I heard some people chattering and they're out there.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, mate.
No. Pass the baton.
How much have you enjoyed today?
Loved it.
We've got an hour and a half in, so.
Really?
Yeah, it's 1 hour 30 we're on.
Okay, that's
a
chunky.
good podcast.
That's juicy.
How long are the Chip ones and the one that inspired you the most? Chip Summers and his
Veronica Valley.
How long are those podcasts? An hour?
Yeah, around sort of 50 minutes.
Well, we beat them.
Yeah.
We've doubled their time.
Yeah.
It's all about quantity for me.
The bigger the better, baby.
Oh, no. What a way to end it.
Mate, on that bombshell.
Tell everybody where they can find out everything about you again.
Yeah, my name's Jake Buckley, so you can find me on Spotify with Jake Buckley, and then my singles Sleeping with the Lights On, What You Leave Behind, and my new single As Good As I Am is out on the 9th of June. You can also find me on Instagram at Sober Rock and Roller. That's Sober Rock N Roller with an A on the end. And you can go to the link in my bio there, and it's got everything that I've done. And at the top, it's got my Bandcamp. So if you want to support me as an artist, you can buy my song for £1.
Nah, only a quid.
£1, yeah.
Think about what you could get for a quid.
Well, you know, it's got £1 minimum purchase, so you can buy it for £1,000,000 if you so wish.
Ooh, nice. Have you enjoyed today?
Loved it.
I think you're a great human.
Cheers.
I'm looking forward to seeing about your path, mate. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I've enjoyed doing this so much. I'm really glad to be back. It's been, 5 or 6 months? We're back. We're on it. There's so many guests planned. And remember, I'm going to leave you on this. I always do and I always will. Just be nice to one another. You're a beautiful set of buggers. That's all you got to do. Be nice. See you later.